This week's podcast is sponsored by MPB. Trade in and upgrade your setup for the perfect shoot every time, or free up funds for the gear you no longer need. MPB is the fast, easy and secure way to buy and sell camera equipment. MPB pays for insured collection of your kit and delivers free when you trade in, and has a free 6-month warranty on all purchases. Visit mpb.com to find out more. Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast for Monday the 11th of March, and joining me on this edition, Steve Withers.
How long must we endure this fool?
And Ed Selley.
I've always wanted to fight a desperate battle against incredible odds.
There we go. Let's see if you can figure out which film that was. So I was going to come on to what's everybody been doing this week, but seeing as me and Steve are going to talk about what we've been doing this week in the next section, it's probably pointless doing that. So let's move it on to Stringfellow, who died recently. Not Peter. He died a while ago.
He's already dead, isn't he?
We're talking about Stringfellow Hawk. I know this is a big subject for Ed, who is a huge Airwolf fan. I can only remember the theme tune. I can't actually remember much of it.
You're missing out. Rewatching it. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of things wrong with Airwolf. But at the core of it are some ridiculous sequences for serialized television in the 1980s. Case in point, I'm going to immediately alarm people here by possibly reciting this off the top of my head. There's an episode called Mind of the Machine. It's got David Carradine in it, no less, quite peculiarly. But
he's also dead.
He's also very dead. Clearly, don't act in Airwolf. I mean, to be fair, chronology isn't on your side here anyway. I mean, time catches up with all of them sooner or later. But in that episode, ignoring the sped up fight sequences and the other rubbish, there's another sequence where some pilot is slaloming a helicopter through cones about 10 feet off the ground. Proper, zigzag stuff. And it's not being sped up, but someone is just doing that at random. And there's another sequence where someone flies a Bell UH-1 through a canyon. And again, it's sped up a bit, but on a fundamental level, someone has just gone, yeah, okay, that seems perfectly legitimate. I'm going to bomb this helicopter down a vertical-sided, bloody valley. And, it was very entertaining. They blew the same 6 helicopters up most weeks because helicopters are expensive to blow up. Even the models were apparently quite pricey. But it was good, clean fun. And it also had an episode with Tackleberry from Police Academy films in there as well, playing a redneck. Can't say fairer than that, can you?
I'm just flabbergasted with these, these details. Were you a lonely child, Ed?
I didn't. No, not from. You got to bear in mind, it came out and I was about 5, but it continuously re-showed at channels a long way down the dial on Sky, and it's 11 o'clock in the morning. Your son is bombing around, and given the choice between watching Homes Under the Hammer or Airwolf, I'm always going to watch Airwolf. It's not much of a mystery, really. So, I mean, I love it. As far as I'm concerned, it's superior to Knight Rider, comfortably superior to Knight Rider. Not least because there was more of a vulnerability to both the machine itself and we can mock Jean-Michel Vincent for going for the slightly stern-faced, looking serious as opposed to acting school of acting. But in some regards, he did play damaged human being quite well, because fundamentally he was quite a damaged human being. And Ernest Borgnine added a welcome touch of humanity to the whole thing. And I mean, we were saying just before it went on, if it was actually based on Jean-Michel Vincent flying, it wouldn't have lasted very long, because the helicopter would have come out of that funny volcano thing and then immediately smacked into the side of it, because he was off his face most of the time. But he's made it a surprisingly long time. We were also remarking that we weren't expecting him to have still been alive. So 73 years old, many of them absolutely off his face. That's not a bad innings. I can think of worse ways to go.
Allegedly.
It's a matter of public record that he was off his face most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he managed to have 3 separate severe car accidents in the 1990s, which is quite an achievement. Once would be quite significant, but no, he went in for 3 of them. Vincent was charged with drunk driving again after his 1996 accident. Once again, was sentenced to rehab and placed on probation. In an interview on the television programme The Insider, when asked about his 96 car accident, Vincent answered, "You have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't remember being in an accident." Top man!
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. So
And
he's
also in Big Wednesday, which is quite a good film.
Yeah, that's a good film. Did we we didn't mention it last week because I don't think he died at that point, or because of obviously Keith Flint as well, which is more of a shame in some regards.
Yes, it is.
That's the sound of a particular period in time, and it's an amazingly influential album, The Fast of the Land. I mean, obviously Keith was part of the earlier Prodigy albums as well, but mainly dancing, as a stage dancer at that point. And his move to the front of the band for The Fast of the Land, unexpected but utterly brilliant. Still an absolutely cracking album to listen to.
Yeah,
22 years down the line.
Very distinctive look as well. Absolute distinctive. Yeah. You just had to take one look at him. You knew who he was. Yes, very influential. Very sad when somebody feels the need that they need to take their own life. Yeah, he will be missed. I mean, obviously they hadn't done anything influential for some time, but he is a figurehead of a certain generation, as you say, Ed.
Well, you say that. I mean, obviously No Tourists came out last year, and if provided that you liked what they were doing in the 90s, it's fantastic because it sounds exactly the same. Which, not every band needs to go and break new ground. Sometimes it's like returning to... when I go to an Indian restaurant, I have chicken madras, sagaloo, and pilau rice, the holy trinity of a baseline Indian meal. I mean, admittedly, as construed by people in the UK, but nonetheless. So, it's fair to say that perhaps there hasn't been the artistic progression, but sometimes it doesn't need to be. So it is a shame, but he achieved more in 49 years than many of us are likely to in twice that time. So there is that.
Okay, very sad. So let's move things along. Competition time. Lots of competitions here. So Steve, we haven't held your voice much in the last segment, so on you go.
Okay, well, you can win a pair of Mission QX2 bookshelf speakers in Rosewood, worth £399, and that competition closes on the 12th of March. You can win a copy of Veterans Collectors Series on Blu-ray, which includes Class 1999, Parents, and The Unholy. That closes on the 14th of March. You can win a copy of House of Cards, the final season, without Frank, has to be said, on Blu-ray. That closes on the 18th of March. There's a copy of Bohemian Rhapsody on 4K disc, and that closes on the 20th of March. You can win a copy of Overlord, which I watched last week, actually. I saw it at cinema as well, and thoroughly enjoyed. Hell of a soundtrack. And that's available. You can win that on Blu-ray, and that closes on the 20th of March. And you can win a copy of Sink the Bismarck on Blu-ray, and that closes on the 22nd of March. And as we frequently say, all competitions are open to eligible AVForums members resident in the UK, except for Phil, who's an employee.
Steve, is Overlord the one where you got upset because it showed a mixed race battalion?
Yeah, it's a film about Nazi zombies. So I guess in that context, you probably shouldn't get too upset about historical accuracy. But I was a bit annoyed that there was, the U.S. Army was segregated in World War II, and that's a reality. But I suppose these days, you should be colourblind when it comes to casting roles. Just to look at the actor and not look at their colour. So fair enough.
Yeah, okay.
And also zombies.
And there's also zombies.
Yeah.
Actually, the big guy in it, he's actually English, and I didn't realise that at all. He did a very creditable American accent. Most of the cast are English. Shot in England.
It isn't amazing that you get English actors who can put on other accents, make you think they're American and all the rest of it, but very rarely it goes the other way. We have Americans with really good English accents. There's maybe one or two.
Yeah, I mean, I went through 4 seasons of The Wire before I realised Idris Elba was English. or Dominic West, in fact. I thought, bloody hell, those 2 are English.
Hang on, well, I mean, Renée Zellweger's Bridget Jones.
He does a good, yes, he did a cracking.
That was impressive.
As does
John Lithgow's Churchill wasn't bad either.
Gwyneth Paltrow tends to do quite a passable English accent, as does Claire Danes in Stardust.
I mean, to me, I don't know if Phil may disagree with this, as it's something he has more experience of. But I'm always staggered at Johnny Lee Miller's Scottish accent for both Trainspotting films.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
It's pretty convincing for someone who is in no way, shape, or form Scottish.
Absolutely, a lot better than Mel Gibson.
or Christopher Lambert
could do a better Scottish accent.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Any previous competition winners, Steve?
Yeah, there was one. Cherry Wood won Human Desire on Blu-ray. So congratulations to Cherry Wood.
Next week we should have about 6 or 7 winners. It's just everything seems to be closing all at once. And the Mission speakers, if you're listening to this on Monday, get a move on. Closes on the Tuesday.
One day.
And as I have pointed out on many occasions, that's a hell of a prize. Get in on it.
Yeah. You watched Bohemian Rhapsody yet, Steve? You watch your disc yet?
I've watched bits of it, but I haven't actually watched the whole thing.
Yeah, I sat and watched it last night, and actually, I watched the Live Aid, the 20-minute Live Aid thing.
The full recreation of Live Aid.
Very impressive, really impressive. And then I just thought, I'm just going to watch a film again because I hadn't seen it since the cinema. So yeah, it's really, really good. Good stuff. Right, so we'll be back in a sec to talk hardware news. So I was really around last week at home. Did a bit of travelling. So Wednesday of last week, I made the trip down to Leeds, which wasn't too bad actually from where I am in Durham. It was only a 2-hour drive. So I went down there to meet Hisense. Never been to their UK offices before. Have you ever been, Steve?
No, never been. Okay,
so it's like I say, they're based in Leeds, so we went down, had a look around their office, went to meet the staff. So there's 38 people working there in the UK. Not a huge operation for a company the size of Hisense, but they have been making steady progress over the last 3 or 4 years since entering the UK. And they're the type of company that don't want to go for massive growth straight out the door. They want to build solid foundations and make sure they've got a solid foothold, and that their product is available to buy in shops, which a lot of consumer electronics companies do seem to have issues with. Philips spring to mind, Steve.
Yeah.
Very hard to find them in a retailer, and it seems to be a battleground that lots of manufacturers are entering at the moment, trying to get their ranges in front of people and through the big chains in the UK and also independents. So I went to see the TV lineup. I'm not really that interested in fridge freezers, but I have to say they design and manufacture some really, really nice looking fridges.
No one can resist decent white goods. There's no point pretending. They're amazing things. You think, God, if I only had a bit more money, I'd have an amazing freezer.
Yeah, well, the
washing machine or whatever.
The 4-door fridges that they do with the water dispenser and all that, proper American size things, seemingly really, really popular at the moment and selling by the bucket load. And I've got to say, they do look really nice, as do their other white goods. But yeah, I was there to see the TVs. And I guess the big news this year, although we were given this news last CES, Steve, was that Hisense were going to introduce an OLED TV. It's taken a little bit over a year. Like I say, they're a company that like to take their time and make sure they do things the way they want to do them and have a solid foundation. They finally have an OLED TV available this year. There is no word on pricing, but before everybody gets excited and thinks Hisense OLED TV means cheap OLED TV, it won't be the case. This is their Halo product for the TV line, and the pricing will be round about the same as everybody else on the market at this moment in time. I'm not sure if that's maybe a side effect of having to buy from LG Display, that they have to keep within certain price points, maybe?
I think there might be certain guidelines to pricing, or at least they obviously tell the panels at a certain price, and therefore it's difficult to undercut each other particularly.
Yeah.
I mean, having said that, given some of the prices you can buy an LG OLED for at the moment, I think Hisense has got the work cut out of them in terms of pricing.
Yeah, so they're aiming it round about it will be the bottom of the market, but it'll still be pricey. So don't think they're going to come in with a $999 OLED TV. That's not going to happen. But impressive lineup this year in terms of the fact that they've got an OLED. It also has Dolby Vision on board. Some of the literature that I saw said HDR10+, although they are not HDR10+ as it stands at this moment in time. And I don't know if that will be the case going forward. That's still to be confirmed, so don't take that.
But they could theoretically do it.
They could do it.
I guess the key point.
Yeah, but there is no official word yet. Also, no official word on any of the pricing for the lineup. And I've got a full video coming with interviews from Hisense staff. So I don't want to, preempt a video because that is coming, and it's really quite interesting to go into some bits and pieces. But what is interesting is the fact that this year is turning into a year that Dolby Vision really is making its presence felt. In fact, there's only one manufacturer now. Major manufacturer.
Yeah, there's literally only one manufacturer worldwide that I can think of that doesn't support Dolby Vision. And more importantly, Dolby Vision is being rolled out down the lineup from
So this
flagship products right down to lower middle range products.
Yeah, so
where
Philips
it actually adds more value.
Yeah, so Philips are doing it lower down. In fact, I think 90% of Philips range is Dolby Vision,
almost their entire range,
and HDR10 Plus. Panasonic, quite a bit of the Panasonic lineup. Certainly, what we'll see in the UK has both Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus. Hisense now have Dolby Vision on board, and that's also from mid-range. Their mid-range TVs upwards has Dolby Vision. There's quite a few when you look through the lineups. Not only the OLED TVs, but also the LED LCD TVs that are adding it in there. Now, interestingly, Hisense are using IPS panels and edge-lit for their LED LCD TVs this year. It's hard to tell when it comes to picture quality and everything else when you're in a showroom or a show floor or whatever, and that's what I was in. I was in a showroom. They had demo material running on them. It's really, really difficult to give any indication to what picture quality may be like. We are certainly going to get the TVs in for review as soon as they're available. So picture quality, not a lot we can really add to other than Dolby Vision. It might do HDR10 Plus. Most of the inputs will be HDMI 2.0. There's no 2.1 on any of the TVs. But like we say every week, you don't need it because a lot of the features can be added. The build quality, I've got to say, is really impressive. And this is one of the things that really impresses me about Hisense as a brand. It was last year was the first time I'd actually seen a TV for review, because you'd done the majority of them up to that point, Steve.
Yeah.
And reading your reviews, I always got I always read that you said the build quality was really quite good and all the rest of it. But it really surprised me when I got the U7A in last year for review, because the first thing I noticed as soon as I was lifting it out of the box was how heavy it was and how well built it was. And that's certainly something that they've carried over this year. They are very pretty looking TVs. They're really nicely designed. They've got really nice stands on them. They've now got a mix of stands. They've gone for one design which is on most of the higher end models, which is the central stand with the 2 feet that come out.
Yeah, like a flying V, isn't it?
Like a flying V, yeah, like that. They've got a Sony-esque stand, which is like a loop, which is on the mid-range TVs, and the TVs that will be exclusive to certain retailers will have that stand as well. And then they do have the 2 feet at either end designed, but thankfully they've thought about this, and you can move them to the centre if you need to. So they have thought about the designs, they've thought about where people are putting the TVs. They have kept up the good build quality in terms of what's on there, and also their smart TV system. I didn't realise that they actually bought the company and now have that in house. So they are
Vida VID U.
U3, it's a U3 or something like that this year.
The
So it's actually in house, which surprised me. And they could have gone down the Android route and or the Roku route as they have in some territories like the US. But no, it's developed in house. I believe it's a Canadian company originally that designed the software. So interesting that they're doing that. And obviously all the apps on there will have most of the features that you would expect from the big hitters, the traditional big brands. So it looks promising from Hisense. It was nice to go and see the range. It was nice to go and see the lineup, get hands on, have a good look at laser TV. £11,500 for 100-inch. But I've got to say, it's really impressive. And I'll be heading back down there to review it at some point this year and have a really good look at it, because we've seen them for quite a number of years on the Hisense stands at CES, but never actually had the time to spend with one, Steve. And I've got to say, when you get close up with it, I know there's others out there in the marketplace that are a lot cheaper, like the Epson that you reviewed and so on. But
but theirs comes with the screen.
Exactly, so it comes with a
system.
Right, light rejection screen. It's bright. It's got laser light source, like we say. So it's a different proposition to what's further down the market. So when you look at it and you think £11,000 or £11,500, it is a lot of money. But similarly, they're selling them. They're not selling them by the boatload, but they are selling them and selling them into certain markets, and people do want them. And I've got to say, it is impressive, because you can have all the lights on and the curtains open, and you're still getting a fairly decent image back because of the light rejection screen and so on. And I guess the only downside to that is because of the way the screen's designed, you will get hot spotting here and there with certain images. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going back down and having a look at that. So yeah, thanks very much to Hisense for the hospitality this week. It's always nice to get in and actually see the company and see them in their own office, as it were, and what they're up to and what they're planning to do and so on. So, and a big brand with sports ambitions as well, which I didn't really realise till I went in the office and you start seeing the photographs on the wall. One whole wall was F1 and so on. So yeah, you forget that they have got quite a pedigree when it comes to sponsoring major sporting events as well. Like
come on, Phil, all this is window dressing. How much fuel did it take to go from your house to Leeds and back?
Half a tank, Ed. Half a tank. It wasn't bad at all.
Marvellous. Is that you in sixth at 56 miles an hour?
Yes, with the
slipstreaming a lorry.
No, I didn't go as far as that, but I had the radar cruise control on, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm falling in love with that. You know, the car in front of you slows down, you slow down, it speeds up, you speed up. It's fantastic. Really good. Yes, so that was Hisense. Yeah, anything to add to that, Steve?
Not really. No, I mean, like you say, we'll find out more later in the year when they actually hit stores and we get them in for review. But it looks like a strong lineup. Actually, I've got to say.
If you wanted an interesting, just randomly, whilst I remember, and this is relevant, if you wanted an litmus test that Hisense is slowly building a presence in the UK outside of specialist interest and so on and so forth, is that my parents are aware of it. And it's not like they, heaven forfend, I'm afraid they don't listen to this podcast on a regular basis. And I don't think they read many of the television reviews, but they have become aware of the existence of Hisense televisions. And earlier this weekend, my dad was asking me, so where do they actually sit in the great television hierarchy? And then I pointed out that I don't know anything about televisions and you want to go and read AVForums. But nonetheless, the principle is they are, as you say, this slow and steady approach is starting to pay dividends. It hasn't been saturation or any stupid things like that, any fire sales, any stupidity, and it is beginning to pay off for them. So I hope that continues.
Yeah, the temptation could have been there to undersell the brand and to knock it out dirt cheap, like your Goodmans or a Lucky Gold Star back in the day. But no, I think they've taken a really sensible approach. They've taken their time. They've sponsored the right events to get the name out there. Obviously, it takes more than 3 or 4 years for a brand to build its presence in the UK. And the UK can be could be quite a difficult market. It is a really difficult market, the UK. But you just have to look at Samsung and LG. 15 years ago, they certainly weren't where they are now, and it took them a long time to build their brand up. Both of those are now major companies. So yeah, don't write off Hisense. They have ambitions, but they're taking their time, and it appears that they're doing it the right way at the moment.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so that was one TV event this week. We didn't do just one TV event, we did 2 TV events. So Friday was a long day, 22 hours in fact for me on Friday.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that it was a meeting that I really did have to go and sit in on, just because it's the only real opportunity you get to spend with manufacturers and get their side of the story, and I think it's a really important thing. I know a lot of people, certainly in the CES videos in the past and the Panasonic convention videos and so on, why are you not asking the really difficult questions? Well, to be fair, I think we ask the really difficult questions when it comes to the product coming in for review. That's where we do our part, I think, and I think the videos and the coverage that we give these companies at the start of the year, it's their story. We want to hear what it is that they are bringing to the market this year, what their ambitions are, what they're boasting about, and so on. And then we'll put that to the test when we get the products in for review. So we were with Samsung on Friday, and it was my first opportunity to see some of the TVs. Steve, I know you've had a pre-production Q90 in for review, which you were impressed with. And I think the main TVs are going to come in the next couple of weeks, the proper retail samples, so we're looking forward to that. But we got to see the Q85, which we haven't seen before, or certainly I hadn't seen before, which was really quite impressive when it was up against the Q8. So what they did was it was like a CES demo. I described that in a previous podcast. So basically different stations within a room with different demos. We had an introduction, a slideshow with all the models, what the technology is this year, what we should be looking out for, and all the rest of it. And then a bit like a trade show, you had the different areas of the floor for different technologies and so on. There was competitor models set up, and I've got to say, usually you take these things with a really big pinch of salt, and you do with the case of Samsung, but I've got to say, the TVs that were in direct comparison were set up pretty well. I mean, there wasn't any underhand tactics going on that you do find with other manufacturers. I mean, Sony are usually quite bad at
terrible for it. Interestingly, it was a Sony that was one of the TVs involved in one of the demos, and it did not come out of it well. But
it didn't, but I can.
Well, we knew that was going to be the case.
Yeah, and I can say that was looking like it looked when I reviewed the Sony TV, so it wasn't like they were deliberately making it look bad. They were actually really quite fair, because I think they've got quite a bit of confidence in the technology this year.
Well, this is how, I thought, I remember thinking when we were there, I was thinking, well, the demo they were doing, so it was completely blacked out room, wasn't it? And they had 4 TVs in there. They had the Q9 from last year, they had the new Q90, they had an LG OLED, I think it looked like it was a C8.
I think
was it an E8? It was an
so.
E8. Yeah, judging by the thing along the bottom. It was an E8, and it had the
ZF9.
ZF9, that's it. Yes, the ZF9. They had a ZF9. So that's two of their TVs, last year's and this year's, and 2 direct competitors. Pitch black room, completely blacked out, and they were showing a scene from It, the Stephen King movie, where a kid's in a dark tunnel. And he's using his lighter and a can of gas, I guess it is, lighter fluid, I suppose, some lighter gas. And he's burning it to light up the tunnel. So really, really tough scene for any TV to deliver, particularly in HDR. So they were putting that up, up against an OLED, where that's the kind of scene that an OLED's going to really look good in, because it's obviously self-emitting. So I thought, that was a difficult scene. They didn't make it easy on themselves. They could have just put on bright stuff. They did some bright stuff after that, which looked fantastic, because obviously it's got a higher APL. But they did put some stuff on that was challenging for local dimming, very challenging, and it still looked good. I think if they'd done some SDR content set up correctly, it would have, the difference between the Q90 and the OLED would have been even less, in my opinion, based upon my experience. But I thought that was quite brave of them to put that up, because that was tough material for any local dimming to deliver. It certainly showed up the Sony for what it is, which was very poor, but we already knew that. The LG looked fantastic, because it was going to look good with that kind of material. And then they had the 2, the Q9 and the Q90. And I think the one thing that blew you away, because you hadn't really had a good chance to see it before, was the viewing angles. Yeah,
well, the CES demo was the same demo with the same 4 TVs, but they were slightly round the other way. But it was in a light room with lighting and all the rest of it. It wasn't a pitch black room. Now this really was a pitch black room. It was black material on the ceiling and all the walls around. It was basically a tent in the middle of the room that they'd built, and it was absolutely pitch black. And the viewing angles, they were impressive at CES, but on this occasion, I was really, really staggered with just how well that technology works. And it starts to make sense when you're talking about prisms and how the light. And the thing that really blew me away, and I asked the question, because I just assumed that it was on the horizontal plane, that you were going to get this better viewing angles, not on the vertical plane. So you got to think people will wall mount these TVs
over the fireplace
and at really high angles with a crick in the neck and all the rest of it. But people do that. So you need to know that the TV is going to have the same performance that we were seeing. And right enough, I mean, I got down on my knees and had a look up and so on. And the way that this prism and the focus light from the backlight works, it works in every direction. Which again was really, really impressive. Now, before people start, rubbing their hands in green, thinking this must be the perfect TV and all the rest of it, absolutely not. That's not what we're saying here. It's an LED LCD TV.
It's perfect.
And no TV's perfect, and it still has, some of the issues that LED LCD TVs have. But what's really impressive is the amount of effort that has gone into the TV. And the Q8 DN that I looked at last year and the new Q85, they're like completely different TVs.
I mean, the Q85 has the wider viewing angles. It has the Elite black filter, and it has more zones. Not as many as the Q90, but a lot more than the Q8 had. So the results, and also it's got the new quantum processor, which is based on the one from the Q900 last year. So it's got AI processing built into it.
We'll come on to that in a sec. Yeah, we'll come on to the processor in a sec. But yeah, Steve, the 85 next to the 8, it was like two. I mean, I've got a photograph. I'll put the photograph up if I remember. And you can see the light pool and everything else on the Q8, and the Q85 is solid black.
Yeah, it was a brightly. It's a photograph of the crystal skull.
Yeah,
or mask, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not easy. It's a brightly lit thing against a completely black background. So tricky stuff for local doing to deliver, and it was doing a great job with that.
Yeah, so. Yeah. So there was still some halo in and that kind of thing. You're never going to get away with that. The only time you're going to get away with any sort of halo effect off to the side is with a self-emissive technology, a per pixel based technology like OLED. It still struggles. So, don't think this is the perfect TV. But if you're a gamer, if you want bright HDR, if you want to use a TV as a workhorse, you're not going to watch it just for watching movies. You're going to use it for a lot of other things, which it is more than capable of doing. You want some of the best smart TV. I mean, I'm blown away with just what Samsung offer on their smart TVs, and it's going to get better as well as soon as iTunes comes along as well. Yeah. So if you're you've got an iTunes account or whatever, you're going to really benefit. But this is I think it's the first time I could possibly say, if you're a movie fan, you might actually like this TV as well. You can maybe live with it in a completely black room. Yeah. And I think it's the first LED LCD TV I personally could say that about.
They weren't really showing it off at the demo, which is a shame, because one of the things that really blew me away was how good the filter was. So, because most people don't watch TV in a completely black room. Most people watch TV with some biased light in the room. Like, a lot of people watch TV during the day or in the summer when it doesn't get dark till 10, 11 o'clock at night. You've still got a lot of light in the room. The black
watching
filter,
TV in the day, that will never catch on.
But when you're watching TV in daylight, should I say? There's this black filter really does a brilliant job of projecting ambient light. So, it is a cracking all-round television, definitely, with a comprehensive smart platform. And like you say, for gamers, 14 millisecond input lag. 14 milliseconds.
Yeah.
Got VRR, it's got auto game mode, the lot. Great all-rounder.
The only thing I didn't really agree with was, but I'm not a gamer, was the way that they were manipulating the gamma curve for the games mode.
So there was a feature you could turn it off.
You can turn it off.
Basically, it was called like game enhancement or something like that. Basically, what it does was it would basically manipulate the gamma curve to lighten the shadows.
Yeah,
so if you're playing a first-person shooter or something like that, you can see people hiding in shadows and shoot them before they shoot you. So it's kind of a cheap feature for gamers. But apparently, gamers asked for that. That's why they put it on. So they did a lot of
So if you throw enough money at your gaming rig, you actually there are actually performative advantages to be had by spending out. I like that. I like the fact that it's now been reduced to the level of normal sport, where spending a ton of money makes a measurable difference. That's good.
The only thing missing for me, obviously, is it doesn't support Dolby Vision.
Yeah, that's
the one thing, and I think unfortunately it is going to hit them in the market when it comes.
Steve, what do you think it's going to take for them to do it? Is there
any?
Sales.
I think it will take if they see it as having a noticeable impact on their sales. Yeah, if they can see sales are dropping, and those sales are going to Philips and Panasonic and maybe Hisense if they do both as well, but companies that are doing both formats, if they can see the visible move towards those companies, that's I think when they're going to have to think about it, because but they're aware of the issue. I was speaking with them about it, and they were saying, we are thinking about it. We do know that this could be a problem. It's a problem for LG too. LG are Dolby Vision only and no HDR10 plus, and they're holding out in the same way that Samsung are. So both those companies could find themselves losing out to companies like Panasonic that are doing both.
I think there's a better chance of Samsung going Dolby Vision than Samsung releasing an OLED.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, look at it this way, right? I mean, 2 years ago they were suing Apple and Samsung were busy suing each other, and now they've got iTunes on their platforms. Well, I guess if there's a good enough business reason for it, they'll make nice.
Yeah, it's all love and war when it comes to business, isn't it? It's strange who become bedfellows. It really is. One other thing I really wanted to mention was the local dimming algorithms. I noticed it jumping from the Q9 to the Q900 8K TV that I reviewed in December, and I had here in my own home, 65-inch, and that was really impressive with the local dimming. And I think they've stepped it up again with the Q9ER from the demos that we've seen. I mean, I'm dying to get this TV in here because I've still got the Q9, so I can do side by sides, and I've got a C8 OLED as well, so I can do a complete comparison, which I'm dying to do, because I really do think they have they've managed to compromise when it comes to the image quality in terms of how they're using the local dimming. Now, you will catch it out. It's not going to be perfect, because at the end of the day, it's an algorithm and it works on, what it's being fed and all the rest of it, and what it thinks is happening when it looks at histograms and so on of the scenes and how it should be set. And again, that's how it's doing HDR this year. So again, I was having a bit of an issue getting my head around how they're actually doing that this year, because you can't switch off their tone mapping.
It's dynamic tone mapping. It's basically a similar feature to the one that LG's got.
And Sony,
the thing is, you can't
turn
it on or off. It's always on.
Yeah.
But it's basically dynamically timed. Although I've got to say, when I measured the HDR mode, the tone mapping was spot on. It was tracking the curve exactly. I mean, how much it actually does, in terms of actual tone mapping, I don't know. It was tone. I guess it depends on the. I mean, 1,000 nits, it can do 1,000 nits. It hasn't got a tone map. I mean, it can do up to 1,600 nits. So it would only really be applying that. Well, I guess more to the case, it would be applying it to 4,000 nit content and 1,000 nit content.
Yep. So again, I really want to see that. I think it's interesting. But the local dimming, the algorithm that they're using, from where they were when the Q9 was first introduced, and that was still really impressive, Steve. You gave that 10 out of 10 when you first saw the Q9. That's how impressive it was. But it was aggressive in the way that it did it.
Yes, I mean, the black looks blacker on the Q9 compared to the Q90.
Yes, it did.
But there was more detail just above black on the Q90. So I guess it's a trade-off.
Absolutely.
Same with an OLED. OLEDs, you can lose a bit of detail just above black as well, because it goes from absolute black and shoots straight up again. Yeah. So it swings and roundabouts. But overall, I would say I think most people would be very, very pleased with the image on the Q90.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that compromise works. I mean, it is a compromise because it doesn't look as deep as the OLED in the Q9, but then it's not crushing the same detail. Yeah. You're getting that above black, and I think that's going to be a plus point for us. So yeah, really looking forward to getting those TVs in, and thanks again to Samsung for spending the time and taking us over
to Barcelona for the day.
Over. Yeah, I mean it was gorgeous and the weather was great. It was just a quick change around, so that was the only thing. Like I say, it was a 22-hour day for me, 3 a.m. start to get a flight via wherever and whenever. But yeah, thanks very much to Samsung for that. It's always good to see things ahead of time. It gives you a good idea of what's coming, and it certainly helps with the review process, because if you know what it is that they're trying to do, it makes it a bit easier when it comes to reviewing, just to put that to the test and see if they have succeeded, and if the things that they're implementing in the products, and not just Samsung, that goes for all the manufacturers. It's interesting to see if it actually does what they say it's going to do. So, to wrap up, we've got another bit of TV news. I was about to go over to Ed there. You'll just have to hang fire just a little bit longer, Ed. Take another couple of sips.
Actually I can participate in this piece of TV news.
So we knew it was coming. We've been hearing the rumours for a long time. I've actually had a few people behind the scenes tell me it was going to happen and so on. And it's finally been made public now at a press event over in Korea, and that's the LG Display will be doing a 48-inch OLED TV, so you can rest assured that LG Electronics and anybody else who buys panels from LG Display will be able to have access to the 48-inch OLED. And seemingly the reason it's taken so much time, and the reason they can do it now, is that they've figured out how to cut the glass. And basically what they mean by that is, and I've seen this in action with when plasma was popular. I had a visit at the Panasonic factories in Osaka. You basically get a huge piece of glass, and they work out that this piece of glass you can cut so many 55-inch screens from it with the least amount of wastage, and that's the way they look at it. And it's only been now that they can cut so many 55s and fit a couple of 48s in there without wasting too much of the glass, that they're able to do it now. And obviously that's one part of the process, but it opens up a whole new market, I think, and it's going to be a popular screen size, because if there's one thing we've been hearing on and on and on again is people can't take a 55-inch screen into the living room. We live in Britain, and unless you live in or you're lucky to have a big living room, or you just don't care how big your TV is inside your room, 55 can be a bit too big for people.
Yeah,
yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
Probably the most frequently asked question we get is, can they make a small OLED TV? Yes, they will be.
Yeah. So, and again, it's not just...
this news came out, as I say, my parents were up this weekend. They were talking about Hisense, but it came out whilst my parents were here, and we were doing some crude tape measure based measurements with my 55 because where my parents, a classic case in point, it's still fundamentally a corner setup television. And switching from the 40-inch LCD that's in there at the moment to a 55-inch OLED, it's just the distance it comes out from the corner to annex that is just too large, even allowing for the fact that in the time since the two televisions were built, the surround of the LG is non-existent compared to the old 40. But taking that into account, the difference between an old 40-inch television with a wider bezel and a 48-inch OLED, which is presumably not going to have any greater level of bezel than the existing 55 models, that starts to it does open up a huge category of people. And I don't, it's going to be interesting to see what, if any, saving is attached to this, because I'm not 100% sure there needs to be. It's simply a case it needs to be smaller.
I don't think there will be, because the not only is it cutting the glass, but you've also got to get those pixels into a smaller amount of space as well. And there is quite a bit of development cost that would go into that as well. So I'm not expecting these to be cheap when they come to market, and I don't think there will be.
No.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but they could be as expensive
as
if not more so than the 55.
No, I said this in a previous podcast. I actually don't think that makes a significant difference, because the 55s have come down in price to a point where you have, as long as it's marketed, it's like these are difficult to make, and you're getting exactly the same television, but it's smaller. It will work. Or at least I believe it will work. I base that on no empirical evidence whatsoever. It fundamentally feels like the right thing to be doing at this point. There's also been some comments in the thread attached to this. Why not a 50? Why not so and so? It looks like it's going to be one sub 55-inch size. 48, by my own crude mathematics, is the median average of all of the sort of 40 to 50 inch screens, isn't it?
It's not even as complex as that. That's what they can cut from this sheet of glass is a 48 inch without having too much waste to make it unviable. So that is the reason it's a 48 inch. It's the reason that you get certain screen sizes. I mean, if you look at LCD screen sizes nowadays, the 43, because that's what they're cutting them at now, is the small size. And everybody's range is the same because they're all getting the panels from the same people. So that's the reason it's a 48 and not a 50, is the way that they're cutting the glass. That's the most cost-effective way for them to do it, to produce it. And that's the reason why it's a 48. No other reason than that.
Skills.
Right, so yeah, like we say, I think it's going to be a big product, that one. Anyway, moving on. We need to talk about some audio, and Ed's going to talk about some. Now, they're not headphones; they're earphones.
They are, and also having been indulged and been allowed to review a 500-watt amplifier and a skeletal record player and all sorts of cool stuff, I have reviewed a pair of Bluetooth earphones, and they're, unlike the last ones, which were £900. These are £70. And they're from SoundMagic. Now, SoundMagic might not be a brand that you're hugely familiar with, but about nearly 10 years ago now, they released an earphone called the E10, which was £30, and for £30 it was unreasonably good. And it was so good that actually, unusually for new companies who are always out to sort of prove things, they just left it alone for years and years and years. But now finally, the E11 series has been released. Excuse me. And I went straight to the wireless-only E11BT. And the reason for that is absolutely straightforward. The Bluetooth implementation on this does not have aptX, which is the popular enhanced Bluetooth mode for Android telephones. It is AAC Bluetooth, which is aimed firmly at iPhone users. And the reason for this is abundantly simple. At £70, they are looking to undercut the AirPod contingent. And also, it has to be said, whereas the AirPods are achingly cool and they go in your ears individually and so on and so forth, this is on a yoke. It's bigger and it's cruder, but it does mean that for those of you who are of an active persuasion, you can go jogging around and so on and so forth, and they're unlikely to make a bid for freedom and fall out and do all sorts of things which do seem to be a bit of an issue with AirPods under certain circumstances. All of this would be completely irrelevant, but if they didn't sound any good. The good news is that they do. I need to be clear about this. Obviously, I spend my life surrounded by totally ridiculous pairs of earphones. Here at the moment, the AKGs are still here at £900. I've got some Shures on test for another publication at £1,800. It's quite a lot of money for a pair of earphones. At £70, we need to be realistic about what these do, but they sound pretty damn good if you've got an AAC Bluetooth source from your phone. It's a good, well-judged, well-balanced, very easy to listen to sound for long periods of time. And the long periods of time thing is also important because this is the first product I've looked at, and it's going to shortly be followed by another with Bluetooth 5. Now, Bluetooth 5 has been it's quite important because it doesn't really affect the sound performance in any way, shape or form. The basic standards haven't changed, and most companies are still using enhanced versions of Bluetooth bolted onto the basic standard. But one thing it does do is it alters the power management that the device uses when it's connected. And it's resulting, I've tested 2 Bluetooth 5 products now, and they have ridiculous battery life. It genuinely stands out as being quite an order of magnitude beyond what I've been used to getting out of Bluetooth 4 and older products. The SoundMagic isn't physically that large. The battery's contained in the yoke around the back of your neck, so there's a finite amount of space to store batteries. Even so, it's still good for 10 to 12 hours of perfectly normal use. But I've got a pair of headphones now that's in the tank for a future review, which we'll come to in the not too distant future. And honest to God, you could go a whole week of hour each way commutes, and you'd only charge it on the Friday when you got home for the last time. Bluetooth 5 is going to be very, very important. If you've got a device that supports it, if you get an accessory that also supports it, the improvements that you will see in battery life are genuinely dramatic. It's a bit of a step change into what we anticipate a wireless product being capable of achieving. So the long and the short of it is that if you've got an up-to-date iPhone, you're looking at AirPods and going, no, not so sure about that. For £70, you really can't go too far wrong with these. They're a genuinely well thought out product that's been very, very clearly and absolutely directly targeted at you. So hopefully when the review comes out, you can read it and see what you think. And that's as much as I really have to say about that.
And that's all I've got to say about that.
And that's about as... So, yeah. I need a drink now.
I think you've had enough, have you not?
No, nowhere near it.
Okay. Right, okay. So that's our hardware for this week. There are some other things we need to talk about. We'll probably talk about it next week because I don't think there's any major rush, but that is the fact that Samsung have stopped making Ultra HD 4K Blu-ray players. Actually, they stopped making Blu-ray players, full stop. Is it a sign that UHD 4K Blu-ray is in trouble? Absolutely not. And we'll discuss that next week and our reasons why we think that is the case next week. I might be putting words in Steve's mouth there, but certainly,
I agree.
From my point of view, I think it's going to
be. Are they keying up to make a record player? I mean, that's normally what happens. People start making a high technology solution and goes, actually, we've decided to get back to our roots, and here's our record player. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for it.
I don't think Samsung have ever made a record player.
We'll see.
Okay. But anyway, we'll talk about that next week. It was a big bit of news, but I think it's, like I said, it's not fast moving, so we'll discuss it next week. So next, it's movie news. Okay, so movie news and reviews, and we're going to play the old trick of time travelling. So I'm just about to get in the DeLorean, and I'm going to go and see Kaz, who isn't on this podcast, but is now going to appear now. So, Kaz, you've been to the cinema. What have you been to see?
I've been to see Captain Marvel.
Any good?
It's the movie that everybody has been eagerly awaiting, well, apart from, of course, Endgame. And ever since the end of Infinity War, it's been what everybody's been waiting for. And it was good, is the punchline. I'm sure it could have been better. It could have been the movie that they maybe teased at the end of Infinity War, which, without any spoilers, basically is a hint showing that they're going to call the mysterious new character Captain Marvel to hopefully save the day from Thanos. And here we go. Here's Captain Marvel. But this is very much a origin story, a typical MCU origin story. And it's pitched perhaps towards the future beyond Endgame. We're looking at who the next Avengers are going to be. If they're not going to be Iron Man and Thor and Captain America, if the actors have all been aged out or their contracts are up and we're going to get new characters, who are they going to be? They're going to be Black Panther, the new Spider-Man, and Captain Marvel. So rather than get a chapter which is prepping us for the movie that everyone wants to see in like 6-8 weeks' time, what this is just another building block towards the future of the Marvel Universe. And so commercially, it's a clever decision, but it's a little bit difficult walking into it, watching it, and then going, okay, so it doesn't really give me anything towards Endgame, but this is a new character we're going to add to our roster of characters. It is, in typical Marvel ways, a good movie. Marvel on a bad day is still good, and it's a solid entry. It's a solid introduction. They do lots of twists and turns to keep you guessing as to what on earth is going on at the beginning. There's plenty of nostalgic moments that bring the 90s back to life. Samuel L. Jackson has an absolute hoot. They've de-aged him almost seamlessly, so they brought back Fury and Coulson. They've de-aged them both, and whereas Coulson looks utterly plastic and really poorly done, Samuel L. Jackson just looks 20 years younger, and he has a blast as probably the most fun he's ever had in the entire Marvel Universe. Captain Marvel is a very powerful, interesting character, but we don't get enough of who she is in this installment. And I think that would probably fall under the disappointing category, because Brie Larson, she's hobbled a little bit by the nature of the narrative, but she doesn't really warm us to this character. She isn't bounding with that arrogant sarcasm of Robert Downey Jr. or, the equally arrogant Thor. She doesn't have this instant pre-made personality that comes in there. The narrative calls upon her to play it pretty low-key, and unfortunately, her only humour appears to come across as a little bit smug. But I don't think it's the actress's fault. She's a great actress, and I think that in future movies it can only get better. It's not a movie I think you have to see before Endgame, but it is a movie that you should see before Endgame, because you've seen all the others, and it does fill in a very small but nice piece to the puzzle, and it does complete the journey, tying in the whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. backstory, everything we've been looking at in Marvel, and pre the Marvel universe as we know, because this was set in the 90s. It's got some fun bits to the alien worlds as it explores, and crazy effects, and Captain Marvel herself has got some awesome powers. I think that I would have liked them to really nail this one, but I'm still looking forward to Endgame in not very long. And
did you see this in IMAX, or was it just a normal viewing?
I saw it in Showcase X Plus, so it's the closest I can get to IMAX near me. I think that of all the movies that we watch at the cinema, the Marvel movies have got to be the ones that are up there as choice candidates to go and see at IMAX, to go and see in 3D even. I don't think there are many movies left around that really celebrate it, things like the Mission Impossible movies. It's big screen fun. There's lots of space chaos. The beginning is very Star Trek-y. It'll look good on a very big screen. So I'd recommend seeing it as big as you can.
Okay, good stuff. And you scored that 7, is that right?
I gave it a 7, yeah. I don't want to put people off expecting it to be like a 10. It's worth seeing.
Yeah, okay. So worth seeing, but it does have its flaws. Okay, let's move on while we got you, Cars. Streaming service-wise, bit of a quiet week this week, but there was one series that has hit from Ricky Gervais. You either love him or hate him. I really didn't get on with The Office, but I did get on with Extras. In fact, I fell in love with Extras. I thought it was superb. So he's back with a new series. Is it any good?
Well, I'd risk saying that it's possibly the best thing he's ever done.
Really?
Yeah. So I've loved everything he's done. I found The Office deeply uncomfortable, but I also found it very funny and clever. And I've got on with Extras and to a less extent maybe Derek. But this is the best I've ever seen.
So what are we talking about then? What is this new one?
We're talking about Afterlife. And it's split words, so we're not talking about the afterlife, although I suppose he does talk about that, but we're talking about Afterlife. And it's a show about him playing a widower. He's recently lost his wife to cancer. And one of the things his wife loved about him was his sense of humor and the pranks he played and how hilarious and warm he was. And after he loses her, he appears to turn it into to use for more nefarious purposes, and basically wanders the street tearing into anyone he can, verbally mostly, and he's zero filter, nothing to lose, doesn't care about being nice anymore. And the interesting thing about it is that it enables Ricky Gervais to be the person Ricky Gervais often finds himself being, except with a legitimate reason for being there. So you don't just think he's not very nice. you see why he's there. Yeah. You see why he's hurting, and you see why. I mean, it's heartbreaking. And he wrote and directed it, and he's the star of the show. But it's a very mature role for him to have picked, because he can be hilarious, but at the same time he can really get to you the drama of it. And I don't think I've ever seen that from him before, enabling him to wander around and rip into people. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but in a very emotional way, not in a, oh, this is unpleasantly funny, which is what The Office essentially was. It's like you can totally see why this guy has nothing left and doesn't care at all. And so you can see why he's just speaking his mind on things that everybody else is too polite to say. And it's hilarious and heartbreaking.
And
really good.
A bit of a coup for Netflix.
Yes, so he did I think he did a film for them, maybe Special Correspondence, I'm going to say that's what it was called, with Eric Bana. And I get the feeling that once you've kind of worked with Netflix, you get in the door and it's very easy to get another project off the ground, and maybe you can see how it works there. I can understand why he's gone the Netflix route, because he never quite hit it in Hollywood. So he had to return to TV, and perhaps in a way, Netflix offers him the best of both worlds. So I think this is great. It's great work from him. It's 6 episodes. They're about 30 minutes each, and you can binge the whole lot. It's like 3 hours of viewing and done. And it is very addictive, binge worthy. Want to get to the end of this viewing. There's tremendous stuff from Gervais. As I say, I think it's possibly the best thing he's ever done, and I highly recommend it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for your time, Kaz. You can go back into your box now.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay, yeah, so thanks again to Kaz for popping in and doing the reviews. And as Ed opens another beer, Afterlife. So Kaz gave us his review there. I haven't caught up with it yet, but I fully intend to do that this week, because it's only 6 episodes, 30 minutes an episode, so you can binge it.
Not even 30 minutes, most of it. You could binge it in about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Okay,
this morning.
But I've been reading the comments. Obviously, Kaz's review went up on Sunday. If you're listening to the podcast this week, go check it out. It's still on the homepage. He's given it 9 out of 10. And he's saying it's probably one of Gervais's best ever roles, which is pretty high praise.
I was reading his review this morning, and it does sound like he's finally cracked a way of doing what he does in a way that inspires you to have some level of empathy for him and not just think he's a massive bell end.
Yeah.
And that's a useful thing to have cracked, because it sounds like it's the missing piece in a puzzle. So yeah, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't touch his output with a barge pole, but this does sound genuinely interesting.
So before Steve gives us his roundup, one thing that strikes me straight away, having proofread Kaz's review, is that this sounds very familiar ground for Gervais, because did he not make a film where all he could do was tell the truth and
Truth About Lying, where he was a person who couldn't lie? It's a similar kind of concept to that, although done in a much better way. This is easily the best thing that Gervais has done on his own. I still think that stuff he did with Merchant, which is basically The Office, obviously, extras, and Life's Too Short, are fantastic. But when he's been on his own without Merchant, most of what he's done has been terrible. I know a lot of people love Derek. I've never watched Derek. It just didn't appeal to me. But the other stuff of his that I've seen recently, stuff he's done on Netflix and that sort of stuff, I haven't thought was particularly good. This is really good. It actually managed at one point to make me cry and laugh hysterically almost at the same time, which is quite a rare feat.
Because you're old, Steve.
No, it's really good. It could have been easily tightened up and made into a 2-hour movie. As it is, it's not much more than that anyway. It's about 2 hours 45 minutes when you binge it. But it's really good. It's really, really good. He has found a way of taking his persona and a lot of the things he says in stand-up and that kind of thing, and condensing it into more of it's not really a sitcom exactly, but into something that's the drama. What they call them, dramedy, isn't it? It's a dramedy, really. But it's very good. It's got a great supporting cast too, I recommend it highly.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to catch up with it this week, and I've got a funny feeling that Ed might even blow some of his internet.
No, this is tremendous news. If you're using the 3-go binge thing, it would appear that all restrictions on 4K and Dolby Vision have been lifted. You can go nuts. Anything on Netflix is now fair game and won't come out of your allowance.
Great, so you're going to be doing lots more TV reviews for us.
I am, but I just, very quickly, I'm halfway through it and I'm going to finish it probably tomorrow, actually, when I think about what I've got left to do this evening. The Formula One documentary that's appeared on Netflix, you don't have to have it. I mean, I find modern Formula One to be pretty damn dull, but this is really, really good. Whoever is overseeing the Netflix documentaries at the moment, they're on a bit of a run. It's absolutely fantastic. It's beautifully shot. You're seeing people who present a particular face to when you watch Sky Sports F1 or Channel 4 F1, all the rest of it. You're seeing them caught more unawares. You're listening to radio commentary, which for very obvious reasons never makes it through to the race feed, and so on and so forth. It's absolutely brilliant, and it also has one of the most astonishingly funny moments for a program which is not supposed to be a comedy I've seen all year, and it involves Romain Grosjean, the French Formula One driver, and I don't want to spoil it more than that. It's just, if you don't laugh whilst feeling appallingly sorry for him, you have no soul, fundamentally. It's really, really good. I'm genuinely enjoying it.
I did watch the first episode of Sunderland Till I Die,
and
I wish. I just got there and thought, I wish I cared about anything as much as they care about their football club. I just realised that in my life, I don't give a shit about anything or anyone, really. I honestly don't. I just thought, God, I've never cared about anything in my life.
There was
what you're saying is that Phil and I thoroughly enjoyed it as a brilliant insight into football in the 21st century, and you had an epiphanal moment that you just don't care about anything or anyone. Well, that seems perfectly reasonable. It wasn't necessarily the result I was expecting, but I'm glad you gave it a
go. Yeah, but Ed, on a serious note, I at one point in my life, I did go home and away every week during the early 90s when I lived back up in Scotland. I followed the Hibs for probably about 3 or 4 years, every home and away game, and yeah, I can appreciate and empathise how people like that like the Sunderland supporters, get behind their team. Because it's one of these things, and it's a very, very true saying, where you can change your car, you can change your house, you can change your wife, you can change the dog, you can change everything, but you can't change the football team you support. And if you're a true supporter, that absolutely is real.
Fans,
yeah, absolutely.
But no, I'm glad you gave it a go, Steve. Fair play to you. But as I say, the Formula One documentary, they explain enough. You do not need to be a hardcore fan of the sport. And it does. It's not in HDR. It's just in normal 4K. It still looks absolutely bloody mighty as well. I have a sudden and totally random desire to go to Azerbaijan. It looks incredible in the 4K footage. I mean, outstanding.
Yeah, I'm glad you said outstanding. That was going to someone else there.
Well, no, I'm still, it's pre-Watershed.
Yeah, got to remember, I've got to sit and edit this. So less of the yes, there seems to be lots of these things on at the moment. Which I've got told about one that was on Amazon as well, which follows different sports and different teams and so on. I can't remember the name of it now.
Yeah, they one about Man City, didn't they?
Yeah, so that's also piqued my interest. So lots to go and watch at the minute, and I just ain't got the time to do it. And that's the annoying thing. Right, so getting back to the running order and the things that we got to talk about. Before we do that, actually, so Steve, you gave Sunderland a go. You need to watch the Grand Tour this week.
Oh yes, you do. Just only one segment though.
Only the one segment, but you need to watch it.
Oh, which one?
It's all about Neil Armstrong.
It's
really?
about the cars of the Gemini.
Oh yeah, they all had Corvettes, didn't they?
Yeah, Corvettes.
That gave them all Corvettes.
Yeah. So it had C2 because they all got C1s.
Apollo 12 crew, they actually had their Corvettes marked on the side with Commander, Lunar Module Pilot, and.
But there is a sequence, as Phil's about to say, there's a sequence involving Armstrong's C2.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check that out.
You need to watch it. Yeah,
there's annoyingly, it doesn't seem to be. Well, if it's available in this country, I can't find a cinema that's showing it. If someone does know where I can see it in IMAX, please let me know in the comments thread. But there's a film coming out called Apollo 11. It was certainly last week. It was playing in IMAX in the States. It's about obviously about the Apollo 11 mission, but there was a film crew shooting a documentary about the moonwalk, the first moonwalk. It was called. The film came out in '72. It's called Moonwalk 1. But the people shooting it, they pretty much had carte blanche to do what they liked from NASA and a pretty big budget. And they shot a lot of 65mm footage. Now, 69 reels, 65mm footage were never used for the film they eventually put out, and it's been sitting undeveloped. And they discovered them a couple of years ago. So this IMAX film has 65mm footage of like the crawler taking the Saturn V out for launch, the prep, the clean room. The launch itself.
So is that technically 4K?
Beyond 4K. 8K is effectively what 65mm is. So this is like large format IMAX. The splashdown, actually picking up the crew afterwards. There in quarantine afterwards. All this stuff was shot on 65mm. And obviously the mission bits that the crew shot on inside the command module on the moon, that's 16mm. But that has also been cleaned up by NASA and completely restored. So this film's got all this footage. It's also got all of the communications between all the flight, the crews, and the guys in mission control, and they've actually synced their recordings with the footage that was shot in mission control. So it's all synced up now. And apparently they've just done an amazing job in this documentary. So if anyone listening knows where it's playing in the UK in IMAX, I want to go and see it. So please let me know.
It hasn't been announced yet. I've been going through
I've looked all over the place, and I don't think it's been. So it might be because obviously the anniversary's not till July, so it may be that it doesn't get released till later in this year. It definitely was available in the States last week. Obviously, fingers crossed we get a 4K release as well. But that just sounds absolutely stunning. So because this footage apparently, it wasn't even developed, so it's completely pristine footage from 69 of the mission, before and after the mission, basically, which apparently looks gobsmackingly good. I'm up for that.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a week only release in the US.
Yeah, it was only a week in the States, but it doesn't seem to have had a week in this country yet.
No, I'm looking at IMAX UK, and there's nothing listed at the minute. So it could just be that it hasn't been announced yet.
Sounds like a shame because it does sound pretty damn good. So
okay, are we going to discuss what is coming out this week at the cinema?
Well, we can, but it's going to be quick, isn't it? Because I've never heard of either of these films. They've obviously everyone else just shut up shop and buggered off until Captain Marvel's finished its run.
Well, Well, there's actually more than these two coming out, but these were the only two that one I'd seen a trailer for that looked interesting, the trailer, and the other one is getting some pretty decent chatter online, but that's about it.
Okay, so we've got What Men Want, which is coming out on Friday. It's a UK movie, apparently. A woman is boxed out by male sports agents in her profession, but gains an unexpected edge over them when she develops the ability to hear men's thoughts. Isn't that just what women want?
Professor Mel Gibson did that some years ago.
Yes, yes, it's a complete remake, but now it's a woman hearing men's thoughts.
Oh, they've actually remade it.
That's what it looks like anyway. It looks like it's a complete remake.
Presumably, if you could actually do that, it would just be, if you were in a busy place in London, you'd just be drowned. You'd be drowned out by people just going, "Oh, can I get away with this? Can I get away with this fart?" And that would fundamentally just drown you. That would be the sound that serenaded you to your own suicide as you tried to make the voices go away. That would be an altogether darker film.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. It's amazing how your mind went that way, Ed. Anyway,
okay, that sounds. I quite like What Women Want. It was my wife's sort of guilty pleasures. What Women Want, she loves it. Okay, that's coming out. So that's a comedy, obviously comedy, fantasy, romance to be precise. We've got
actually,
the
random aside before I forget about What Women Want. It's Professor Mel Gibson in that film. Yeah. He has a Meridian hi-fi system, and it marked the start of. Weirdly, this is Meridian got a bit po-faced when I pointed this out years ago. It marked about a 10-year phase where the baddies in so many Hollywood films had Meridian hi-fi systems. Right. And it wasn't that Meridian was placing it with them; they just all. Well, that looks.
That's because it looks good. That's just come up with an idea for an article, Ed. So now your article is the best hi-fi used in films. There you go. Write me an article on that.
Yay. All right, fine.
What else is coming out, Steve?
The Prodigy, which is a horror thriller. A mother concerned about a young son's disturbing behaviour thinks something supernatural may be affecting him.
It's got ADHD or whatever it is.
Yes, just
too much sugar.
Just an annoying little shit. Anyway, that's out on Friday too. Like I said, no massive releases this week because I guess everyone is just trying to keep ahead. Actually, we're recording this on Sunday evening, so the box office numbers for Captain Marvel came in a couple of hours ago. It took 153 million in the US over the weekend and nearly 500 million worldwide. So it's done extremely well.
Not bad, eh?
Have you seen it yet? Did you go and see it, Phil?
No, I didn't get a chance over the weekend. I'm going to go and see it probably Tuesday.
I'm seeing it on Wednesday. Well,
it's my 45th birthday on Tuesday, so I'm going to go and treat myself and have some ice cream and watch a film at the cinema.
Well done you. That sounds very commendable.
Yay! Right, it's not just cinema that seems to be a little bit quiet at the minute, but disc releases as well. There's only 4 major discs coming out this week. Yeah,
we've got The Grinch, which is Illumination Entertainment, the people that do like Despicable Me and Minions, their version of The Grinch That Stole Christmas. That's out on 4K disc and also regular Blu-ray.
Is it Benedict Cumberbatch?
Benedict Cumberbatch does the voice of the Grinch, yes. Actually, I quite like Illumination's animation movies. They're usually quite good fun. I haven't seen this one though. I've never been a big fan of Dr. Zeus, to be honest. I always found it a bit annoying. Even when I was a kid, I just found all that rhyming silliness annoying. But anyway, if you're a fan of The Grinch, that's out, or a fan of Benedict Cumberbatch, I suppose. Though he's not physically in it. He's animated. He's playing The Grinch. He's not like the Grinch movie that he did with Jim Carrey, where he was him in makeup. We've also got out, we've got out Overlord, which I mentioned at the top of the show. It's one of the prizes you can win. That I saw at the cinema. I did really enjoy it. You can't go wrong with Nazi zombies, really. It's on 4K disc and on regular Blu-ray. The 4K disc is Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. The soundtrack is absolutely stonking soundtrack. Worth getting for that alone. It's a dark film. Almost the entire film takes place at night, apart from the last 20 minutes. And they really push the grade in terms of the darkness and the shadow details on this film. Bugger to watch on projectors. It looks okay on 4K TVs, but projectors can struggle a bit with this because it is very dark for most of it. Also out on regular Blu-ray only is Slaughterhouse Rules, which is stars Simon Pegg. It's basically a horror comedy set in a school, I believe. And another competition from the top of the show, Sink the Bismarck, which is available also on Blu-ray.
Can I give you a quick and brilliant fact about Sink the Bismarck? No, I'm going to do it anyway.
Go on then.
Right, the bloke who plays the captain of the battleship Prince of Wales in Sink the Bismarck is a guy called Esmond Knight. And he knew exactly what he was saying, doing, and talking about because he was on HMS Prince of Wales whilst it fought the Bismarck. And he was blinded for nearly 2 years as a result of splinter damage sustained during that. He eventually regained some of the sight in his right eye. But it's fair to say that he knew, and he gave, it, as part of him being there, he gave it in some regards, it's pretty corny and obviously it's been, pathed up, for want of a better phrase, but it's one of the more realistic depictions of late battleship bridge control and fire control in a film. So there you go. If that sort of thing blows your frock up, which it sort of does for me, I won't lie. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And he managed to live until 1987. So he had a good life and all the rest of it. But yeah, he was there for the real thing, so he knew all about it.
Right, okay. Time to wrap up the podcast because we have nearly outstayed our welcome yet again. But this is just leading on to a conversation that was had in the taxi on Friday, and that's films coming out this year that we're looking forward to seeing and already looking to book tickets for and all the rest of it. And for me, I've had a look through the lists, and I think there's only two really that I'm definitely going to make the effort to go and see, that I can see from the list in front of me anyway, and that's Avengers Endgame.
Obviously.
No way I'm going to miss that. Toy Story 4. I'm actually looking forward to it.
I really wish they weren't making Toy Story 4. I think Toy Story 3 wrapped everything up perfectly. And
I found that overloadedly sentimental.
Well, I don't know. There was that bit when they're all holding hands waiting to die. I thought, oh my God, are they going to kill all the toys?
This is going to be a dark ending. Self-evidently, they weren't.
Well, I know. For a second, I thought, this is going to go dark, isn't it?
Not even for a second, sorry.
But no, I thought Toy Story 3 was great. And yeah, I don't really want a fourth one.
Okay, well, that's fine. Don't go and see it. I will. I'm going to go and see it. I don't think you can go wrong with Toy Story. As long as it's still got all the in-jokes and so on, that the first three had, and it still has that adult story there for the adults, then I'm happy with it. I'll go and see it. Because there's lots of other stuff that's coming out that I've just no interest in seeing. I mean, Disney really putting it on the line with these. I'm going to say live action, but it's not really live action, but it's not the animated stuff. So you've got The Lion King, you've got Aladdin, you've got Dumbo.
I'm sorry, if they piss about with Dumbo. Sorry, Dumbo. Dumbo is my favourite Disney animated film of all time, bar none. It's not even close for second for the top spot. And if they mess about with that, that's just
apparently, because if you actually the actual animated film, it kind of ends with him realizing he can fly. It's actually not a very long movie, is it?
No. It's about an hour.
Yeah, so he flies at the end, and this film really begins with him flying and moves on from there. So it cover a lot of the same territories the cartoons do.
But that said, a 21st century fully immersive version of the Pink Elephant sequence would be closest you could get to PCP without actually taking PCP. So
yeah, I saw that clip from Aladdin. Boy, that looks bad.
Oh, what with
Will Smith? My God, that looks bad. Because the problem is, it's always going to be Robin Williams, isn't it?
Yes,
always.
When you die having done it as the last person, that you do tend to own it from that point. I mean, there are some noble exceptions. I mean, Michael Gambon did a creditable job of rescuing Dumbledore.
I think Michael Gambon's better, partly because he wasn't infirmed and ancient.
This is true.
His Dumbledore has got a twinkle in his eye in a way that Richard Harris just didn't. I think partly because, in fairness to Richard Howard, he was just very ill when he was doing those two films. But yeah, it's terrific. I mean, if you look at Aladdin, the animated Aladdin, I mean, basically, Robin Williams just ad-libbed all of his dialogue, and the animators then had to animate what he ad-libbed.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's completely a Robin Williams, and Will Smith isn't Robin Williams. No disrespect to Will Smith. He's a fine actor and comedic actor as well, but he ain't no Robin Williams, and he looks weird in real, as a blued up.
I mean, so joking a minute, are they going to try and do James Woods' Hades? Because that would be.
Hercules.
James Woods isn't dead and also has turned into a proper Republican Party wingnut, but nonetheless, he bloody owns that performance. So
I'm sure
again,
I think they're doing a live action version of Mulan next. That's the next one on the list. They're doing a lot basically. It's just a money for a rope, isn't it? Really for them.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just remaking everything that they can at the minute. I've got to say, Lion King. I'm interested in that one because obviously I've got a bit of a history with the original film. You know, it was one of those. I think it was the last hand drawn. Some of it was hand drawn. I'm sure it was.
It was hand drawn. It wasn't the last hand drawn film Disney did, but it was certainly one of the last ones. And the only bit that was CG was the buffalo. The water buffalo. Whatever they are. What was it?
The canyon.
Wildebeest.
Wildebeest. Thank you. That was it. Wildebeest. That bit was computer generated, but the rest of it that cell animation.
Yeah. The thing I'm worried about is that the pre-credit sequence is almost shot for shot. Although it's reversed, which is quite funny because for some reason the new one's
John Favreau did a really good job with Jungle Book, so I've got faith that he might do something interesting with this too.
Yeah. Okay. So let's come back to Will Smith.
We're actually looking forward to.
No, let's come back to Will Smith. We're getting a Bad Boys movie this year, are we? Or is it next year?
No, it's not this year. I think it's next year.
Is it?
Yeah. Bad Boys for life.
Oh well, that's that conversation.
My list is really short as well. In fairness, I like you will drag myself to see Avengers, and I'll go and watch Hobbs and Shaw because.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Hobbs and Shaw.
Of course.
I mean, if you're going to do something really, really stupid, you might as well make it the biggest, stupidest, dumbest thing you ever can and throw in Idris Elba just because. But we had Idris Elba available.
But I mean, if you're talking about something like that, though, it looks like Godzilla's going that way, where they're just going to throw everything in it.
But
I'm just not interested in Godzilla. I couldn't give him monkeys. Can anyone?
There is a special
He's
magic
not a monkey.
about
He's a lizard.
Jason Statham that just makes it all worthwhile. He's a national treasure. He just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list and there doesn't seem to be anything.
Shazam looks like it might be quite funny.
Yeah, that looks quite entertaining. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's coming as well.
Hellboy, I definitely fancy. Obviously, Avengers. John Wick, Chapter 3. I'm up for that.
Ooh. Oh yeah, no, you kind of got with John Wick, yeah.
In May, and then obviously we've got. I'll tell you what. It's going to be a disaster. Dark Phoenix, the next X-Men movie. Apparently, that's already done 3 months of reshoots, and it only shot for 3 months to begin with. So they basically reshot the entire film, and it's still in trouble.
I don't mean to be rude to her because she seems like a perfectly nice person, but Sophie
Sansa
Turner
Stark is no great actress.
When you compare it to who's the lady that plays Arya Stark?
You mean Maisie Williams?
Maisie Williams can properly act. She will quite happily settle into the great British acting pantheon. I'm afraid Sophie Turner can't. She's a perfectly lovely person, but that's going to be a problem, especially if you're trying to anchor a film around her.
Yeah, another thing looking at this list is they're either remakes or sequels.
There's a lot of remakes or sequels, like Men in Black International. Does anyone need that? Shaft. Who needed a remake of a remake?
Yeah.
Spider-Man
looks alright.
I am looking forward to. That looks like it could be good fun.
Frozen 2? I don't want it for Frozen 2. It Chapter 2? 8 Chapter 2?
Yes, It Chapter 2 I'm looking forward to. That Joker film in October might be interesting. Zombieland sequel, Double Tap. That might be a good laugh. The Terminator film's out in October, the one that Cameron was involved with, so interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously, as the car wreck, that will be Star Wars Episode 9.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised we went that long without mentioning it. I was impressed with that.
The week before, or the same week that it opens, unfortunately for Star Wars, Jumanji sequel, which I'm much more excited about.
Is The Rock in it?
So there's double rock. A bust a nut with a double rock.
Oh dear. Well, whatever keeps you happy, darling. I'm more excited about music this year, I've got to be honest. So. But we'll do all those in my monthly thing. So
that's just your life, though. So I'm going through the more expansive list just to see if we have missed anything. There's the Elton John movie.
Yay!
Jamie Bell's in that, isn't he? And
Jamie Bell's playing Bernie Taupin, isn't he?
Yeah.
and
Taron
Taron
Egerton.
But seeing how, I mean, I know Bryan Singer did the majority of Bohemian Rhapsody, but Dexter Fletcher, he's a canny pair of hands when it comes to directing.
knows what he's doing.
Yeah, might be all right.
He did Eddie the Eagle, which I really enjoyed.
Godzilla, like I say, King of the Monsters. That just looks like it's just all up there on the screen, big monsters fighting each other. And what's her face? 11's in it from.
11's in it.
Oh, when is that back? TV series.
In the summer.
Is it summer?
June or July.
June or July, right?
Yeah. Basically, the film I'm most looking forward to getting this year, The Abyss.
And it looks like it's actually going to happen.
This.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to happen. So, but then it's been looking like that for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it is. If we don't get it this year, because it's his 3rd anniversary this year, if we don't get it this year, it ain't ever coming to disc.
That's it. Game over. Tilt.
This is it. This is the one chance. 3rd anniversary. That's it. It ain't coming out this year. It ain't coming out. End of story.
Is that the point where we end this? Because that's pretty
well. I was just going to say Downton Abbey is getting a movie this year.
Oh, well, that can off, and when it's finished, it can a bit more.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it on that threat. We are ending the podcast this evening. My thanks to Ed Selley.
It never hurts to be rich.
And Steve Withers.
Forget the guns, ramming speed.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Bookmark AVForums.com for latest reviews, news and videos. Plus, why not leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but only if you enjoyed the show. Also, head over and check out our YouTube channel for videos on the latest product launches and reviews, and feel free to subscribe while you're there. I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.